so we want to talk about some things because people this time of year, they're still trying to sort out what can I do to put myself in a better financial situation. You know, that January is that time of year when people get so caught up on that. So when you're looking at your current asset allocations, do they still make sense for 2026? I mean, what are some things that you need to be thinking about?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest concerns, if you're looking at like indexing and passive investments, like maybe in your 401k, is something that a lot of people don't look at often, and that's concentration risk.
Okay.
And statistically speaking, you don't really want to have more than 5% of any one holding. You start to increase your exposure to risk a lot. And the problem that we see with these types of investments, and quite frankly with a lot of people's portfolios right now, is that they have concentration risk. And that's because of the Magnificent 7 or 10, however you look at it, right? These stocks that are mostly tech focused, that's taken over so much of the S&P 500's value.
Tech fatigue, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And is that fatigue something to be concerned about, or is it something to embrace? And I think that's the concern that everyone needs to look at is, do you jump on the bandwagon? Is it too late? Or should I get on if I haven't got on? And I think that's where you get into emotional situations. And we try our best to stay away from those things and look at it from a calculative standpoint. I mean, 35% of the entire S&P 500 right now, Janet, is made up of this Magnificent 7. So the idea of maybe diversifying a little bit more, lowering that concentration risk, becomes something that I think people should start asking about, talking to advisors about, their trusted professionals, start getting more information about how you could do that, because it is becoming more and more volatile.
So, I mean, if you're going to focus on tech stocks, I mean, they're pretty expensive though now, right? I mean, to invest in. Isn't it like, someone gave me a comparison. It's just like if you buy a designer handbag, okay, and you bought it for $5,000, but last year that same handbag was $1,000. You know, is that kind of a good comparison when you're thinking about some of these tech stocks?
Well, I see where you're saying that the value's gone up, and I think that's the key right there is, at what point does the value just not make sense anymore?
No, okay.
So if you're looking at a stock and it's 50 times its value, 50 times, that's like saying I'm okay with buying a home for 50 times its market price.
And no.
I believe that that's a good idea, and I believe that that's going to make sense. But yet all of us are doing that, Janet, when we're buying these Magnificent 7s. Some of those multiples are high like that. And unless you're really, curing cancer or really making a generational change, it's hard to justify that that company is worth that much money. I talk to people all the time about it in my seminars and out and about.
The Constitution says that I am entitled to this.
If we go back in time,
I can't stand
to
it.
the late 90s, early 2000s.
Terminated all taxpayer funded.
Friday night, and we all want to get a movie to watch. So we're going to get in the car and we're going to go on down to Blockbuster, right?
Right.
We're going to pick out a bunch of movies.
I remember those days.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
And we never even thought about the word stream.
Right.
But just like that, that era ended. And so did the stocks associated with it, right?
Okay.
So people have to be aware and at least understand that there could be significant volatility.
Yeah.
One thing could come and change. And I'm not
Just
saying
like that.
Yeah, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if you have a Tesla that's an electric car and then all of a sudden someone makes a water car, well, buy electric car, right? And again, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying that we need to be aware that volatility exists. And so when you put all your thoughts around, this is hot, this is the way to go, this is that savvy way to do things.
Right.
And you're allowing your concentration to get too deep into one of them or into a couple of them. Now your portfolio is lopsided and you're exposed to more risk than you originally wanted to have.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, when you focus so heavily on this is the end thing. This is what
Right.
everybody's talking about. I got to get in on it. Got to get in on it. You know, that's what everybody was saying with NVIDIA. I mean, it was like,
Absolutely.
you know,
And now let's take a look at that. I'm glad you brought that up, Janet. And let's go back last year. You know, there was a tech, right? There was a tech company in China that put out a text that said that they could compete with NVIDIA. And what happened? There was volatility around NVIDIA. And because of that, there was a spillover into the rest of the market.
right.
Now, again, we're not really worried about it because it was a blip and we all came back from that. But we have to think about it. That just a text that went out, right, created volatility.
Right.
And that tells you what you're dealing with. When you start to have things that are recommended by your Uber driver, by your friends, right, and there's no science behind it, or you don't know how, you know, it's working with the rest of your portfolio, but you just know it's good to have and I have to have it,
Right.
emotion starts to take over, and then you have to realize it happens the other way too. Just like that text went out, there could be emotion, now all of a sudden you're down 20%.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's what happened.
And that's what
Again, we
happened.
came back. But
Right.
what if we don't? What if it's a situation where there's a new tech that truly does, like, you know, Netflix to Blockbuster, right?
Right, right,
A
right.
new tech truly does come out and takes out the competitor, and now that's the new king on the block, and everyone who had that Blockbuster stock lost money, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what you have to be aware of. Are you doing it because it's a fad, a trend? Do you really believe in it? And if you believe that you need to be in it to make money, because it's hard not to without being somewhat closely related to it, are you too concentrated? Right?
Okay.
Are you too concentrated?
Got to diversify.
Yeah, and I think that's the key element is diversification. And then maybe how can you diversify from those stocks and get similar type returns, or at least try to get similar returns?
So is boring back? You know, investing in
So-
like, you know, old school businesses like a bank or something like that?
Well, I think when we look at it, and if we're trying to diversify, and we say is boring back, I think if we looked right now when there's volatility, if we went back to, again, I'm not giving a recommendation here, but there's some thoughts. If you went back to industrial type stocks, maybe some small caps, then you might want to look at some gold because the dollar's going to weaken a little bit as these interest rates come down.
Okay.
And then you could plug in some emerging markets to get that international exposure. And now what you've done is you've tried to create something. The goal would be to try to create something that has a good spread out diversification. It's not too concentrated. And hopefully you would get similar type returns to those big tech companies.
Okay. Kind of like the, what do they call it? The blue jeans of the stock market. Make sure you have plenty of that because they're so reliable, right?
Sure.
Everybody- and so dependable. So you got to have that mixed in there. You know, so many people invest and you know, they have their 401k or whatever, and they have no idea.
Exactly.
They have no idea where their money is.
And that's the scary part because they'll think that they're at one type of risk tolerance and they're not looking at, because of the Magnificent 7, 10, however you want to categorize it, they're not looking at the fact that it's taken a large part of their portfolio. If I have a mutual fund and you have a mutual fund, our viewers have a mutual fund, there's a high probability all of us have some NVIDIA in there, we all have some Apple in there, we all have some Google in there. So then it's that diversification conversation again. So one thing that is unique is that some 401ks allow you to do self-management, right? So that's self-directed, if you will. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
something that people can look into. And if you're retiring or separated, you don't have to leave it in that same old 401k.
Okay.
You can actually roll it over into an IRA and then either manage it yourself or have a professional do it for you. But what it will do is it'll open up your options. I kind of joke about it and say you go from like shopping at like a 7-Eleven to a Costco.
Okay.
You just got a lot more variety and a lot
Yeah.
more options.
Okay. All right. So that is something you need to pay a lot more. I'm actually, you know, I'll admit one of those people that I'm not exactly keeping up as well as I should in terms of where my money is. And, you know, I want to kind of ward off any surprises, you know. I mean, is there any advice for how often a person should check and read about, you get those, what do you call those, readouts on what you're invested in?
Your statements.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you have to look at it more from an algorithm, more from a consistency, not from a timing mechanism. So what we talk about is rebalancing. And this is when you're supposed to take your portfolio and kind of look at things from a standpoint of, this stock took off and did better, and I started making money. Maybe it's time to sell it, because if I don't, I'm going to be out of whack of my risk tolerance. So whatever my risk tolerance is, I might end up being a little bit riskier than I wanted to be, because I've let this stock kind of go on a run, if you will.
Okay.
Right? And in a simple terms of looking at it, it's like a haircut, right? It's not a really good idea to kind of time your haircut. It never really works out, at least not for me. You kind of have to have it consistently set. Once a month I'm going to do this, or every so many days I'm going to do this, right? And so same thing with rebalancing. You want to have that be consistent so that you're doing it, whatever you're comfortable with, monthly. At Fitzwilliams Financial, we like to do it weekly. Maybe it's quarterly, semi-annually, whatever you want to do, but do it consistently.
Be consistent.
Don't try to time those things because of emotion or how the market's doing.
Okay.
We want to get away from market timing and more into systems.
Yeah. Yeah, as you say, as the market is doing, I'm looking at this negative 895 right now, but still the market's been really good.
Sure.
Though. It's been really good.
You're going to have more volatility. You're going to see things like this. And the idea is, based on your setup, your diversification, your concentration, do these days affect you more or not? And depending on those factors, it could be more of an effect than not.
And this is probably due to that announcement on the tariffs on the 8 NATO countries that Donald Trump says he was going to place tariffs on if they don't support his move to try to get Greenland. Okay, what else did I want to ask you? Opportunities, you kind of touched on this, or risks emerging early in the year that people should be aware of, like, a risk. You kind of touched on that a little bit.
One of the risks, I think, we were talking about concentration risk in your own portfolio, but what about risks that are not under your control, that you really just have to deal with, like geopolitical risks, like the Greenland conversation? What will be the net effects of that? Geoeconomics. And so this is a time where we want to be aware of those factors. And we want to be aware of how much we have of that, or how much exposure we have to that. But those are definitely risks that could increase volatility for us this year, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting back to like maybe just some basic things in saving. I can remember being 20-something. A while back. But I remember, my first like real full-time job. I can remember the human resources person was an older woman, and she kept coming to me and says, Janet, you have to start that 401k. And I did, I did, listening to her. And I wonder now, though, if young people do you have young people coming to you in your business? Do you see that a lot? That are aware of the savings that they need to be starting now?
Here and there, we have people that are aware. I think it's a factor that they realize that there's probably not going to be Social Security, right, depending on how things shake out. A lot of young people are concerned about that. They're concerned about pensions. That's been changing even for the military. That's had some changes over the recent years. So people are becoming more concerned about their future. So saving now and starting to put away money in some type of retirement plan is important. And I talked about this before last week, but I think it's important to bring it up again. Just because you have investment vehicles or investments like stocks and bonds, mutual funds, what have you,
right,
that doesn't mean you have a financial plan.
Okay.
So you can have the tools, but that doesn't mean you have a plan. So it's important to have a plan. And I think now more than ever, younger people should start trying to build a plan as soon as they're getting into their jobs, getting settled into life, so you don't make decisions that stop you, that kind of put you out of your means. We see that with credit card debt, right? If we see that credit card debt is increasing, and if we see if younger Americans are having more credit card debt, and that means they're being pushed out of their means a little bit more, but the pushing is being done by themselves.
Right.
Because they're not thinking about the idea of, hey, let me get something started. So to what you were saying, I think it's great advice to get something started.
Yeah.
I think it's anything at all.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's really age associated with that. I think it's always good to get started. But I think having a financial plan, good budgeting, down to brass tacks. If I'm going to buy this car and it costs me $500 more a month, what does that look like for a month before I just jump into it, right?
Yeah.
Really getting a handle on where you are on a monthly basis and where your savings is at on a regular basis, I think is important. And plan that out. If you know what you want your lifestyle to look like 30 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever your time horizon is, kind of reverse engineer and say, well, then I need to save money about this much at this rate of return to get this much to live off of
Right.
that amount for a comfortable amount of years. And that's the plan that you want to try to put together. And that's where financial advisors come in and fiduciaries come in to be able to assist in getting you a written plan.
That is so important. I say all the time that these young people now are the DoorDash generation. You know, where it's just easy access. Naya, Naya is smiling because she's probably agreeing with me. I don't know. It's the easy access. You know, it's food, and I mean, I'm looking at my kids, and I had to tell them, look, you're not a salaried employee.
Right.
You can't order $18 meals for lunch every day. You know. Right. And they're asking me for money, and I'm like, do I look like an ATM machine? No, I don't. But yeah, that's, you know, it's kind of a different time.
Well, technology, in my opinion, advances in technology hurt us in our levels of responsibility when it comes to money.
Yeah.
It becomes easier to spend.
So easy.
It becomes easy to let emotions take over, even if it's hunger, right? It's one of those things that you're just like, oh, I'll just do it. I need that sandwich now, or I need to get that cup of coffee, or whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things, Janet, that I like to execute, and you know, it's hard to do, but I think once you do it, it really help you out, especially if you're a young person and you're really trying to figure out how to kind of budget. Is I like to have a separate account for fun. So you pay your bills, you put away for your savings, you have an emergency account, and you pay your bills monthly. What do you have left over? Okay, you have whatever that is. Well, maybe I'm going to put that amount into another account. So then what happens when I spend down the amount in that quote unquote fun account? I'm not going to a credit card. I'm not going to the money to pay for my monthly bills. I'm done. So you get a good understanding of, if you want a DoorDash, if you want to spend money on these things, on skins in video games or whatever it may be, right? Then fine, here's the budget to do that. But once you hit that, we're done. We have to dial things back. And I like that because you don't put overdraft protection or things like that on it. It's gonna stop you. You're gonna know that you ran out of money.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, you still paid your bills. You still had emergency fund, and you still had savings and a good idea of what to do with your finances. And then if you did want to go buy something, just look at that fund account and say, well, it's going to cost me $500 more a month.
Right.
So make sure you leave $500 in that every month, because it won't be there if you make the purchase, right?
Absolutely.
See how that feels. Is it tight? Do I need to use a credit card? And if you can do things like that, and I think that's important, if you can do things like that and you don't feel like you have to go get credit, you don't feel like you're pressed or stressed out, then sure, go ahead and add that extra $500 to your bills.
I know I'm going off topic here, but this just makes me think about, you know, what a lot of parents are thinking about, and I've had people say, "Oh, make sure your kid gets a credit card by like 20 so they can build credit." And I'm thinking, oh, 20. He's kind of immature. I mean, is there an age?
Or credit's an interesting conversation.
And I'm going off.
And the more money you have, the less it's actually used in the traditional mindset that people think it's used. Yeah, I mean, most wealthy people are using their net worth, and that provides a line of credit, and it's not about their credit score anymore. It's about what their worth is, right? But in the beginning, I think it's good to try to build your credit because it's responsible.
Okay.
I think that's why. If you keep that mindset I think that's great. And I think as people start to make money, you're going to find people that make more salary and more comfortable incomes, right? They're going to start to use credit cards to their advantage, not the other way around.
Okay.
They're going to start using credit cards for the free reward points, for the discount structure because they spent so much money on it, and pay it off on a consistent basis. So back to your original point, I think it's a great point of starting some type of responsible relationship with a financial institution. I think that's great.
Right.
What you don't want to do is let it be a crutch, to let it be an excuse to be like, well, I didn't get paid this week, or my check's coming next week. I'll just go ahead and put it in my credit card.
Right.
You want to create a good system, and I think really you almost want to like treat it like a chore. You want to make sure that you don't skip it. You want to make sure that you take it serious and that you're always looking at that, and hopefully you're paying it off and not letting the credit beat you. Now the odds are most people end up paying the interest rate, right? And it ends up becoming a burden in their lives. And sometimes the interest rate can eat you alive.
Yeah.
So you really want to control your emotions on buying things until you really feel you can afford stuff.
Yeah. And parents really should model good behavior, for your kids and how they spend. I'll give my dad and my mom credit for that. They, my dad was always on a budget, and that really influenced me. So, when I got old enough, like for a credit card, I was just thinking, but why would I buy something that I can't afford, but I still have to pay for it? That didn't make sense to me. It was like, and I think that kind of helped me in the beginning.
But a lot of people get caught into that trap.
Yeah, they get caught into that. Is it a good idea to give kids an allowance? Does that help?
I think it is.
It is?
I practice that. I think it's important for them to understand the value of the dollar. And I also think that they have to understand where they are in life, right? Just because you're making money and you're doing well, that doesn't mean that they are. So that kind of gives them the parameters of what they can and cannot do.
Right.
At least that's how it is in my household. So our kids get an allowance.
Okay.
And mom and dad might go do some things or whatever, but that doesn't mean that they can go do those things.
Right. Hey, we can afford it. You can't.
Now, if we're nice enough to let it, if we're nice enough to let them come and do those things with us, right, then that's us just being nice because we love them, and they need to understand that. They also, I think it's important, and I do this with my kids, understand the value of what that is. Show them the receipt. Show them what it costs for that trip to Disney World. Show them what it costs to be able to take your kids to practice on a regular basis or to travel for sports. Because if you don't, they're not going to understand the value of it.
Right.
And they won't be able to really analyze that. That's really important. I talk to a lot of people that are professional, well, right there at the line of some professionals, and then some that just almost but not quite. They didn't quite make it to the professional world. And they're so used to these things, and without the sponsorships and without the stuff that they had when they were going through, or their parents paying for it, trying to bridge that gap or trying to do it on their own is impossible. And they realize they can't continue on that journey of trying to become a professional athlete in this example. Right? So I think it's good to let your kids know what things cost and to let them know what a budget is and let them know what income looks like. And some people don't like that. I personally think it helps them to understand the world the way that it should be.
How should we handle cash on hand,
Yeah.
in the current rate environment?
So especially as interest rates go down, people might have some more cash on hand, right? Credit debt might cost less to service or will cost less to service. There's going to maybe be some opportunities to get more capital. So, yeah, there'll be cash on hand. I think that's beautiful if we scientifically address what we're trying to do with that cash. It needs to be aligned with your goals, right? It doesn't need to be, I'm going to do this because I feel like I want to do it, or that's more like gambling, right? I'm buying this stock because I think it's going to do great. We want to think it through and make sure it's aligned with our goals and our time horizon and what we're trying to accomplish. The trendy conversation or the idea is I'm going to buy the dip. That's the hype. That's what everyone talks about. I have cash, so I'm going to buy the dip. But we always have to remember in finance, it's like the number one rule people talk about is that past performance is no guarantee to say what future performance will be.
Right. Not
So
when
just
comes
because it worked
to that,
one time doesn't mean it's always going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where you have to look at that cash on hand and say, is this Vegas money? Then maybe I will buy a tech stock or do this or do that. Keep in mind the concentration, like we talked about before.
Right.
But maybe I will do that because why not? If I lose it, I don't care.
Mm.
But if this is money and you still haven't hit your financial goals, or it doesn't look like you're going to hit your financial goals, perhaps we need to be more scientific about it, analyze what percentage of it we need to put into low risk, medium risk, high risk, whatever your flavor is. I think that's important. It's not just to think, hey, I got some extra cash, I'm just going to go buy the dip, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
That gets dangerous.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. And it's like gambling.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's okay. If you have the extra cash, it's okay to gamble or to go do that if that's what you want to do.
Mm.
It's your money, it's extra. But if that extra cash is needed to get you where you want to be in life, Janet, then you got to rethink how you deploy that cash.
Yeah, and usually when you gamble, the house wins. So
Most of the time, that's right. Yep.
You've got to keep that in mind. And I guess that's probably one of the biggest mistakes you see people make, something like that, or what's something else that people do, and you're like, how do they do that? What you're
It's
just
the
like
bigger
surprised.
purchases.
Yeah,
It's not what I find with most folks, it's not the day-to-day purchases. Like I'm at an adult level with income and they're doing well in their life.
Yeah.
It's do I need that second home? Do I need that new car? Do I need 2 of those new cars? Right? It's those things. And then that squeezes your monthly cash flow down.
right.
Right? So you can have a lot of these toys, if you will, and have no cash left over.
Yeah,
And I think that's the issue. Well, we'll see some folks will make big decisions and you can't take those back. Right? Most of the time you can't.
yeah,
Right? And so you really want to be cautious, especially when it comes to, this is probably a good topic, is when you're going to buy a house.
Right.
There's a lot of difference between a condo and something that's 3,000 to 4,000 square foot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean the mortgage.
The maintenance,
The maintenance, if you're going to get your lawn cut, it's going to cost more.
the bill, the
Electricity
utility
bill is going to
bills,
be higher. So you want to think these things through. And
Right.
I'm kind of focusing around, if it seems like we're talking about whether you have the cash on hand or whether you hear about a good stock tip or whatever. Are you moving with emotion, or are you looking at this because you have good fiduciary advice or good scientific evidence to make that decision?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it all comes down to.
Yeah,
Is try to make as many decisions as you possibly can through systems and science. Don't let your emotions take over. That's when people get out of whack with their debt. You hear it called house poor, car poor, because they bought something that was just a little bit out of their means. They could afford the mortgage, but they didn't realize all the rest that comes with it. And then, man, that made it much harder to do all the other things they wanted to do in their life.
Exactly. Yeah, and things are getting, so expensive. So you really have to be careful when it comes to things like that. Naya, did you get an allowance when you were coming up?
I did not.
Did you have a financial question? I didn't either. I didn't get an allowance either when I was, it was just, I just had to do without.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say, my dad, to go back to your point, he did teach me the value of money. And growing up, it made me really not hyper fixated on it, but I was always checking my receipt, keeping my receipts.
Right.
Nowadays, they like to ask, do you want your receipt? And I'm like, yes, I want my receipt, because I want to see where did I go over my budget, where did I limit everything what I needed to.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have this thing, and this isn't a plug. I'm not related with them or anything, but there's this company, the green light card, the green card for the kids.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that.
We have that set up. I think that's what it's called. We have that set up for our kids so they can see their balance. If they want to go into 7-Eleven and get a Slurpee, we make them use their card.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we may replenish it, but we want them to see that movement of the dollar so that they understand that, wait, I had $20 and now I have 15. Well, we shouldn't have gotten that drink from Starbucks, right?
Yeah.
And, so they realize that. Whereas if you're just being nice and you're doing it all the time, they never realize it. And even if we give them back the money because we're going to replenish it because we're like, hey, look, that's on us today,
Yeah.
they'll still value that. They'll be like, oh, wow, I saw my money go down, but then it went back up. Thanks, Mom and Dad, you know.
Yeah.
But we're not always going to be here. So they start to realize that, hey, I do need to watch things. And I think if you take that back to the old school model, it was like your dad, right? Teaching you the budget and understanding so that you're looking at the receipts, like you said. In today's model, it's apps and being able to see your balance on your bank app, right? And understand how that works.
Yeah, that's a good idea. A very good idea, that green card thing. And but yeah, and so you look at your receipts so you can stay in budget. That's smart.
Yes.
That's very good. Yeah. You know, I was and my daughter, she's graduated from college, but she just graduated, and I was talking to her on the phone, and she's like, "Wait a minute, hold on, Mom. I'm in the Starbucks line."
Right.
And I hear her order, and I hear the person say, "That'll be 14 blah blah blah." And I said, "Girl,
Right.
you don't make enough money to do that. You can't make that daily habit, you know." And she's
exactly
like,
right.
"Oh, I know, you know." But you know, I had to straighten her up on that.
This is where the fun account comes in, right?
Uh-huh.
You know when you hit your limit.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. People are spending hundreds of dollars a month on these types of things. Hundreds.
And it adds up. It adds up.
It does.
Yeah, yeah. I have so many more questions. We can talk all day about financial management. This is my first day on Live Impact, so I'm getting the wrap because I didn't know when we're supposed to end. I thought I had till 3 o'clock. What time do I have till now? Yeah.
Yes, 3 o'clock. I was just letting you know that we're getting close.
Okay, yes. Oh, we're getting close. Well, so one more question.
Sure.
Senior citizens, older people. I
Okay.
imagine you see a lot of situations where
That's the majority of our clients, yes.
where they're having regrets.
Oh, regrets. Yeah, so the real regret that we see is that they're not spending enough of their money.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a good regret.
They go through
isn't it?
life so diligent and so responsible, always living within their means. They retire, and you only get one life. So if you've done it the right, you played the game the right way, you won. You know what I mean? You saved up enough. You're good. Go enjoy it. Go enjoy it responsibly, but go enjoy it. Spend the money because you only get one life. And I find so many folks are like, no, we don't want to go do that. You know, we don't have that. And they're sitting on, $2 million, right? And their 401ks or IRAs or what have you. And it's like, you only get one life. Not to mention, if you pass and it's in the IRA, that's one of the worst dollars you can leave from a tax standpoint to your heirs. So maybe you should start to spend some of it down. So regrets. What happens is, if they don't try to live their life to the fullest, someone gets sick or dies.
Yeah.
And it's like they work so hard to be responsible, to save up, to never enjoy it. What was the point of it?
And they could have done so
Why
many
did we?
things.
If you ask anyone, why did you put away for your retirement? So that I could do things later in life that I wanted to always do, right?
And they get sick or something.
And then it's done. It's so sad when you see someone work their whole life and they get so money-driven focused, and they retire and they're like, well, I'm gonna go do a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then something happens, and it's too late. And it's sad. I see it all the time.
Oh wow.
About people I'm talking to now that have dialysis and they're new clients. And the thing is that that I want them to be able to enjoy it. Now, this is a blessing. They're going to be able to get that kidney transplant and be able to go enjoy it.
Okay.
But we're telling them, really go have some fun, right?
All right. Thank you so much. We are at 3 o'clock down, but we're going to talk to him again on 13 News Now at 4:30. So tune in for that.